Welcome to Myth or Reality Stories. Is this story a myth or a reality? Find out at the end.
Join me as I dive into this creepy Home Alone story and see if I can handle the spookiness without getting too scared. There's something undeniably comforting about being home alone. You get to do whatever you want, whenever you want, without anyone judging you or bothering you. It's like having your own little kingdom where you're the king or queen. But, at the same time, being home alone can also be incredibly eerie. The silence can be deafening, and the shadows can play tricks on your mind. It's like you're waiting for something to happen, but you're not quite sure what that something is. As I settle in to tell you this creepy tale, I want you to imagine yourself in the shoes of the protagonist. You're home alone, and you're feeling pretty relaxed, maybe even a bit bored. You're thinking about what you're going to watch on TV, or what game you're going to play. But, little do you know, things are about to take a dark and unexpected turn. You might be thinking, what's the big deal? I've been home alone before, and nothing's ever happened. But trust me, this story is different. It's a slow-burning fire that'll slowly creep under your skin, making you question everything. So, grab a blanket, get comfortable, and let's dive in. I was 15 when my parents decided that a weekend getaway was just what they needed. They packed their bags, threw in a few sundresses and swimming trunks, and left me behind with a simple set of rules. Don't open the door for strangers, don't throw a party, and for the love of God, don't burn the house down. I watched them drive away, the tires crunching against the gravel and the dust kicking up behind them like a bad omen. I tried to shake the unease off. After all, what could possibly go wrong in our suburban neighborhood? The first night passed without incident. I binge-watched horror movies with the volume cranked up, screaming at the screen whenever the characters made stupid decisions, like going into that dark basement or answering the door at midnight. I knew better. I was home alone, but I was smart. I locked all the doors, checked the windows, and even set the security alarm. I told myself I was safe. But then the second night crept in, bringing with it a strange feeling that gnawed at my gut. It was around midnight when I first heard it, a soft tapping sound against the window. I brushed it off, convinced it was just the wind playing tricks on me. Yet the sound persisted, rhythmic and insistent, like a heartbeat. I crept toward the window, peering through the blinds, but all I could see was the empty street illuminated by the moonlight. I shook my head, convincing myself it was nothing more than my imagination. Around 2 in the morning, the tapping turned into scratching, more insistent and frantic. I felt my heart race, and a cold sweat trickled down my back. I grabbed my phone, ready to dial 911, but I hesitated. I told myself I was being silly, it was probably just a tree branch brushing against the glass. But the scratching continued, and it was no longer a figment of my imagination. I could feel it, a presence outside, lurking in the shadows. "Hello," I called out, my voice trembling. "Who's there?" Silence. Then, a soft whisper that sent chills racing down my spine. "Let me in." I backed away from the window, my heart pounding in my chest. Who was this person? Why were they outside my house at this hour? I could feel the urge to run, to hide, but my feet were glued to the floor. The whisper came again, this time more demanding. "Let me in. I need help." My mind raced through every horror movie I had ever watched. This was how it always started, the innocent plea for help that turned into something far more sinister. I could imagine the scenario playing out in gruesome detail, a deranged killer, a psychopath waiting for an innocent soul to open the door. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. "What do you want?" I shouted back, my voice echoing in the stillness. "I'm cold," the voice replied, a chilling sweetness that made my skin crawl. "Please, just let me in. I won't hurt you." I stood frozen, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. I glanced at the front door, then back at the window. The scratching had stopped, replaced by a soft shuffle. I could see a shadow moving just beyond the glass, a figure hunched over, waiting for me to make a choice. Panic surged through me, and I picked up my phone, dialing the police. 911, what's your emergency? The operator asked, her voice smooth and professional. There's someone outside my house, I stammered, glancing back at the window. The shadow was gone. They're asking to be let in. Stay on the line with me, she instructed. Can you see them? No, wait, they're gone, I gasped, looking around, my heart racing. Stay inside, lock your doors. I'll send someone over, she said, but before she could finish, the line went dead. My heart sank as I stared at the phone, horror creeping back into my mind. I locked the phone and turned to the front door. It was just a piece of wood, a flimsy barrier between me and whatever lurked outside. I felt a sudden rush of adrenaline. I had to know. I crept quietly toward the door, inching closer to the peephole. I peered through, but the porch was empty. Just the porch light flickering against the darkened street. I turned back to the living room, my mind racing. Maybe it was just a prank, I told myself. But then I heard it again, a soft, deliberate tapping, this time at the back door. My blood ran cold. I rushed to the kitchen, heart racing, and pressed my face against the glass. The figure was there again. It was a woman, her long hair matted and disheveled, her clothes torn and dirty. She looked up at me with wide, pleading eyes, the kind of eyes that could melt your heart. "Please, I need help," she begged, her voice cracking, sending goosebumps racing across my skin. My car broke down. I'm lost and scared. My heart ached at the sight of her. But I remembered the whisper, the sinister undertone that had sent chills racing down my spine. "I can't let you in," I shouted back, my voice shaking. "You have to leave. Please. I swear I won't hurt you. Just let me in, I'm freezing." She pressed her hands against the glass, her breath fogging up the window, creating a misty barrier between us. I stepped back, uncertainty flooding my mind. I could call the police again, but what if she really was in trouble? What if she was telling the truth? The thought churned in my stomach. "Please," she said again, her voice breaking, raw with desperation. "I just need somewhere safe. I don't want to die out here." The desperation in her voice pulled at my heartstrings. I felt a rush of sympathy, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. My mind raced as I weighed my options. I needed to protect myself. Suddenly, the lights in the house flickered. I froze, the hairs on my arms standing on end. "What the hell?" I whispered. I could hear the whir of the fridge, the hum of the lights, but it felt like a trap, an elaborate scheme to lure me into a false sense of security. I turned to look out the back window again, but the woman was gone. I felt a rush of panic. Had she really been there at all? My heart thudded painfully in my chest as I searched the yard for any sign of her. Nothing. I whipped my head back to the front of the house, my mind racing in 1,000 directions. I paced the living room, every creak of the floorboard echoing in the silence. I could hear my breath quickening, the pounding of my heart drowning out all other sounds. I grabbed the kitchen knife, its cold steel grounding me as I held it tightly in my hand. "What the hell is going on?" I muttered to myself, the tension thickening in the air. It wasn't just a woman, it was something more sinister lurking in the shadows. My phone buzzed again, another call from the police. I answered it, barely able to contain my fear. "Are you still there?" the operator asked. "Yes. I'm still here, but I don't know what to do," I cried, my voice rising in pitch. "The woman, she was at my back door, and now she's gone." "Stay calm. We're sending a unit over now. Just hold tight, and don't open any doors," she said, her voice steady. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Okay, I breathed. I hung up, feeling more helpless than before. I took a deep breath and tried to think rationally. I had to get to a safer spot. I decided to barricade myself in my parents' bedroom. I moved quickly, shoving furniture against the door, sending a dresser crashing to the floor as it blocked the entrance. The adrenaline rushed through me, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, plunging the room into darkness before returning. I cursed under my breath, the fear creeping back into my mind. I could hear a distant sound, faint and eerie, like someone was dragging something heavy across the floor. I froze, listening intently. Then came the scratching again, but this time it was inside the house. My blood ran cold, and the knife slipped from my fingers, clattering to the floor. I pressed myself against the door, my breath hitching in my throat as I listened to the sound draw closer. "Help me," the voice called out again, but it was different now. It was deeper, more guttural, as if something had twisted the woman's plea into a grotesque mockery. "No. Stay away from me," I shouted, panic rising within me. I glanced around the room for something, anything, that could serve as a weapon. Suddenly, the door rattled violently, the weight of the world crashing down on me as I pressed my back against the wood. "Let me in," the voice screamed, but it was no longer the woman. It was something else, something dark and sinister that made my blood run cold. I felt the door shudder against the force of whatever was trying to get in. I took a step back, my heart racing, and I fumbled for my phone. The screen lit up with a faint glow, and I quickly dialed 911 again. "Please, someone's trying to get in," I cried, my voice breaking. "Stay calm," the operator said, but I could barely hear her over the pounding in my ears. "Help is on the way. Can you lock the door?" "I'm trying," I shouted back, but the door rattled harder, the wood creaking ominously. The voice outside twisted into a low, mocking laugh, sending shivers down my spine. "You think you can hide? I'm coming for you." I felt the walls closing in, and I spun around, looking for an escape route. My mind raced as I looked for a window, but the thought of jumping out into the dark was equally terrifying. The door rattled again, and I heard a loud crash, the dresser buckling under the weight of whatever was outside. "Help!" I screamed, but it felt futile. The walls echoed my terror, and I knew I was alone. In a moment of sheer desperation, I bolted for the window, throwing it open with all my strength. I climbed out, gasping as the cold night air hit my skin. I landed hard on the ground, the impact jolting my body. I scrambled to my feet and sprinted to the front of the house, the darkness swallowing me whole. I could hear the sounds of chaos behind me, the laughter echoing in the night, twisting into something unrecognizable. I ran down the street, the pavement tearing at my feet as I desperately searched for help. The streetlights flickered ominously above me, casting long shadows that danced in the darkness. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs felt like lead. But the laughter followed me, echoing in my mind. I stumbled to a neighbor's house, desperately banging on the door. "Please, help me," I cried, but there was no answer. The house sat dark and silent, a tomb entombed in shadows. I turned back, my heart racing, faster, louder, but the laughter had stopped. I felt a strange sense of dread creeping back in. "Where are you?" I whispered, the words barely escaping my lips. Suddenly, I saw her, standing at the edge of the lawn, the figure illuminated by the moonlight. The woman's face was twisted into a grotesque grin, her eyes wide and empty, a void of despair. "You can't escape," it hissed, a chilling sound that sent ice through my veins. I turned to run again, but the world around me began to blur. The streetlights flickered, the shadows seemed to stretch and elongate, swallowing the ground beneath my feet. I felt the darkness closing in, the laughter echoing in my ears, and I knew this was how it ended. I stumbled to the ground, the laughter growing louder as I scrambled to my feet. "Help!" I screamed, but the world was silent now. The figure approached, its form shifting and writhing, the sound of heavy footsteps echoing like a death knell. I could feel the presence closing in, the darkness wrapping around me like a shroud, and I knew there was no escape. "Please, no," I begged, but the words fell on deaf ears. The thing lunged forward, and in that moment, all hope shattered like glass. I was swallowed by the darkness, the laughter echoing in my ears. And then, silence. The street lay empty, the moon casting an eerie glow over the house. Just another night, another tale of horror lost to the shadows. In the distance, a single streetlight flickered, flickering in and out, leaving only darkness behind. There was no one left to hear the screams. Looking back on this story, I'm left with a lingering sense of unease. It's like I'm still sitting there in the dark, waiting for something to happen. But that's the beauty of being home alone. It's both comforting and terrifying at the same time. It's a reminder that we're all vulnerable, that we're all just one creepy noise away from total chaos. So, have you ever had a creepy experience similar to this? Do you have a story to share about being home alone and facing your fears? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're feeling brave, be sure to check out another one of my thrilling tales. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.
Home Alone is a myth and totally made up by us. View the details in the video description. Please subscribe, or else.